Dear beloved soul, please listen up. The angels are gently tuning into your vibe right now, so they could tell you what really went down last night. It completely changed your special person's life, and you truly deserve to know the truth. Now, dear one, last night, things got very quiet and a bit dark in your person's soul, like a mysterious hush fell over everything. And in that sacred quiet, something deep inside them started to come apart. The angels watched super closely, wrapping their wings around your person as they stood on the edge of a big emotional moment, not sure what was real, what they were imagining, or what had been hidden all this time. Something in their heart changed, not with a big bang, but with a soft, aching feeling of truth, a truth they'd pushed down for a long, long time. The make-believe things that used to make them feel safe started to disappear, like mist in the morning sun, and they were left with a raw, open feeling about something they had refused to admit. They found themselves looking right into the mirror of their own soul. And in that moment, the lies they told themselves just got too heavy to keep carrying. Your person might have been going through life wearing a mask they didn't even know was there. But last night, dear one, that mask cracked. And when it fell, so did the walls they'd built to keep you and their own feelings far away. Type Amen if you trust in God. You might not have felt it when it happened, but your spirit is deeply tied to theirs. Your heart might have suddenly felt a strange wave of sadness or confusion, like your soul just knew something had shifted far away, but still within your shared spiritual connection. That was the moment their inner truth started to wake up. That was the moment the angels whispered to them, encouraging them to stop running from what they really feel. They might have spent days or even months pretending they didn't care as much as they did, hiding behind logic, distractions, or what other people thought. But last night, in their own quietness, their soul couldn't fight the truth anymore. It rose up inside them like the tide, washing over every false idea they once used to protect themselves from being vulnerable. And now, dear one, they can't unsee what they've realized. The angels are holding your heart gently as they share this with you, because they know you've been waiting in the dark too. You sense that something was left unsaid, that there was a silence full of meaning between you and this person. And you deserve to know that it wasn't just your imagination. Something very real has been stirring under the surface. And last night, the emotions they once buried so deeply finally came up. For a long time, they were scared that if they showed how much they truly felt for you, it might break the world they'd built, a world built on how things looked, what was expected, and needing to be in control. But the heart can't be silenced forever. Not when it's calling out for a soul like yours. Not when every thought of you feels like home, like comfort, like truth. The angels want you to understand, dear one, that last night wasn't just about regret or realizing things. It was about waking up. It was about their soul stepping forward and gently taking their ego by the hand, saying, it's time to let go. Your person saw themselves clearly in the moonlight of their own spirit. They recognized the dreams they gave up on, the feelings they pushed down, and the way they tried to forget you when forgetting you is never really possible. They might not have said anything yet, but their heart is in a bit of a spin. Not because of chaos, but because it's finally facing the sacred truth that's lived inside it all along. You're not just someone they knew. You were someone they felt with every part of who they are. And dear one, you deserve to know this truth now, because your soul has been so patient. You've walked through uncertainty, not with bitterness, but with quiet hope. You've waited for clarity, not because you needed someone to tell you it was real, but because your heart knew there was more to the story. The angels see how strong you were to keep believing in love when everything around you suggested silence. They see the nights you cried without knowing why, the dreams where their face appeared, the moments when your spirit whispered to you that this connection was still alive, even if the world tried to tell you otherwise. Last night, the universe confirmed that feeling. Last night, behind the scenes, something sacred broke open. And now, the divine is guiding this truth to you. Your person might be scared right now. They're standing at the edge of being vulnerable, unsure if you'll still welcome them after everything. But know this, dear one, the angels are working to soften their heart, to clear away the fog of fear and to bring them closer to you. Not by force, but through divine grace. They're being shown signs, nudges, and memories that stir their soul. And all of it is pointing them back to you. Because you are not just a chapter in their life. You are the place where they first learned what spiritual truth means. You are the one who reflected their light and their shadow. And through that mirror, they finally saw themselves. The moon reminds us that not everything is revealed all at once. And the path forward might still seem unclear, but even the softest light can guide us home when our hearts are ready to see. Dear one, the angels are leaning in closely to whisper this to your heart. They know about the silent storm you've been through and the questions that have swirled inside you. Unanswered, but never forgotten. Last night, something deeply special stirred within your person's soul. It wasn't a big, showy gesture, but a quiet, trembling realization that they found a strength inside themselves they didn't even know they had. This wasn't the strength of pride or putting on a show, but the tender, unshakable strength that only comes from deep love, being vulnerable, and facing the truth. For so long, your person has carried a heavy load of fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of giving up control, fear of being truly seen and possibly rejected. But last night, they met a version of themselves that finally had the courage to look all those fears in the eye and not turn away. And in doing that, something cracked open inside them. The walls they had built to survive started to soften, and the sacred memory of their love for you rose to the surface, like sunlight breaking through the darkest sky. Type, I believe if you believe in God's plan. This change wasn't loud, dear one, but it was huge. Their soul reached inward and found the courage to stop running, to stop hiding behind the armor they had worn for so long. That armor might have looked like they didn't care or sounded like silence, but really, it was just a cry for help wrapped up in protection. The angels watched with so much compassion as your person faced the emotional wounds they had buried, some of which started long before they ever met you. They realized that those old wounds were silently guiding their choices, keeping them distant, careful, and conflicted. But something about the memory of you, the echo of your love, your voice, your energy, something about the pure way you love them began to dissolve those walls. And last night, dear one, they stopped seeing vulnerability as a weakness. They began to see it as the greatest form of strength. You, dear one, have always carried that strength in your spirit. The angels are amazed by your patience and how you've held on to love, not with desperation, but with devotion. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. Instead, you chose to love from a distance when you had to, giving them space to grow while never dimming the light of your heart. This strength is the same kind that now inspires them. They're beginning to understand that you were never a threat to their freedom, but rather the soul who honored them even when they couldn't honor themselves. Last night was the beginning of them clearly seeing the kind of love you gave, a love without conditions, without demands, a love so brave it stayed even in silence. This realization has humbled them, dear one. It has shaken something loose in their heart. And now, they can't go back to pretending you didn't matter. They can't go back to the version of themselves who didn't believe they were worthy of a love like yours. The angels are guiding them now, slowly and gently, toward the version of themselves who is ready to love you back in the way your spirit deserves. But that transformation starts from within. And last night was the moment they chose to face their shadows instead of running from them. They saw the reflection of their inner chaos, their regrets, their hidden longing. And for the first time, they didn't fall apart. They held their own heart with compassion, much like you always did. And in doing so, they began to rise. Not just for themselves, but for the possibility of standing beside you again. Not as someone broken, but as someone brave enough to heal. And you, precious soul, deserve to know this truth now, because you've spent enough time questioning if you were imagining how deep your connection once was. The angels want you to understand that you were never wrong to believe in the sacred connection between your souls. Your intuition, your dreams, your silent prayers, all of it was heard. All of it was real. You deserve to know that your strength, your grace, your unwavering faith in love has not been for nothing. The reason the universe didn't let this truth come out before is because your person wasn't ready. They hadn't yet found the inner strength to meet your love with the deep respect it deserves. But now, after last night, that strength is awakened. It might not have fully bloomed yet, but the seed has been planted deep within their spirit, and the angels are tending to it with divine care. There will be a moment, dear one, when all the silence will make sense, when the delay will feel like divine protection rather than punishment. Your person is beginning to understand that true love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, about choosing to stand in front of another soul without a mask, without fear, and saying, "This is me, and I want to try." The strength that blossomed within them last night is what will eventually bring them to you. Not with big promises, but with honesty, with vulnerability, with the courage to build something sacred and lasting. And when that moment comes, you will recognize it. Not because they say all the right words, but because their energy will carry the feeling of truth, of transformation, and of a heart that finally knows its own power. Oh, breathe deeply, gentle one. The angels are with you, wrapping you in the warmth of their wings, reminding you that love is not delayed, only preparing itself in deeper ways. Trust in what last night awakened. Trust in the soul connection that never faded. And most of all, trust in your own strength, because it was your light that helped guide them back to theirs. And now, that sacred light is what will help lead them home to you. Dear one, last night your person reached a breaking point deep within their soul, one they never expected to hit so suddenly, yet one that was meant to be and divinely timed. The angels were there as your person silently, and maybe even without realizing it, stood face to face with the weight of everything they've been carrying for way too long. They might not have shown it on the outside. They might have worn a smile or kept up a routine that seemed normal. But inside them, a heavy storm had been building. And last night, under the quiet cover of stars, the burden just became too much to bear. The responsibilities they've taken on, the guilt they've buried, the emotions they've ignored, and the love they try to push down. All of it piled up like stones on their back. And in the stillness of that moment, they just couldn't keep walking forward pretending everything was okay. Type strong if you trust in God's presence. For so long, dear one, your person has been living under the illusion that strength meant holding it all together without ever asking for help. They try to be everything for everyone, stretching themselves thin just to keep a shaky balance. And yet, inside, their soul was begging for rest, for truth, for a moment to just let go. And you, sweet and sacred soul, have always represented that place of comfort for them. Even when they pushed you away, even when they made choices that confused you or created distance, your presence in their life was always a light, a safe place they never stopped longing for. But the weight of pretending, the pressure of expectations, and the fear of letting you see their weakness kept them locked in a pattern of avoidance. They thought if they could just keep pushing forward, if they could just carry the weight a little longer, they'd eventually outrun the emotional mess inside them. But last night, the universe lovingly stepped in. It didn't bring chaos, it brought clarity. And that clarity came as an exhaustion so deep their soul whispered, "I can't keep doing this anymore." This wasn't just being physically tired, dear one. This was the soul's cry to be free. Freed from the lies they've told themselves. Freed from the roles they've been playing. Freed from the shame of the past and the fear of being vulnerable. In that quiet moment, with no one watching, your person began to understand that they've been carrying not just their own burdens, but the weight of old wounds, pain passed down through generations, and deep regret over the love they let slip through their fingers. The memory of you, the tenderness of what you once shared, came back with a haunting intensity, not to cause more pain, but to shine a light on what truly mattered. And for the first time, they allowed themselves to feel it without denying it, without distracting themselves. They saw you not as a chapter from their past, but as a lifeline their soul had always been tied to, a truth they could no longer bury beneath the clutter of obligations. The angels want you to understand, dear one, that what happened last night wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough, a sacred collapse of false strength, so that true healing could begin. Your person is finally realizing that carrying everything alone isn't heroic, it's harmful. And they're beginning to recognize that your love was never a burden, but a blessing they were too overwhelmed to receive. They now understand that you never asked them to be perfect. You only ever wanted their honesty, their presence, their heart. And that realization has pierced through the fog of their stress and fear, offering them a path toward emotional freedom. They may not have said this out loud yet, but the decision was made quietly in their soul to start releasing what no longer serves them, to begin making room for what truly matters, including you. And dear one, you deserve to know this truth now, because your heart has held on to so much without asking for anything in return. You've carried your own silent burdens too. The weight of confusion, the ache of not knowing why someone you loved pulled away, the pain of feeling forgotten even when you were unforgettable. You've walked through that darkness with grace, not because it didn't hurt, but because your love was genuine. The angels see how deeply you've felt, how long you've waited, and how often you've chosen hope over bitterness. You've been the light they couldn't forget. And last night, that light became impossible to ignore. Your person is now standing at a sacred turning point. They're being called to make changes, to put down what is too heavy, and to step into a more truthful, more open, more loving version of themselves. And while they may not yet know how to find the right words, their energy is already shifting. The healing has begun. The soul is awakening. The burden is loosening. And your love, pure and patient, is one of the guiding forces drawing them back to the truth. The angels are working behind the scenes to untangle the knots of the past, to bring peace where there was pressure, and to create space for a reunion that honors how deep your soul's connection is. So, hold your heart gently, dear one. The universe isn't punishing you with delays. It's preparing your person to return, not as someone still lost in confusion, but as someone who has faced their burdens, let go of their armor, and chosen to walk forward with love instead of fear. The truth is making its way to you, not because you demanded it, but because you deserve it. And when that moment arrives, you will understand that every tear you cried, every silent prayer you whispered, every time you chose to believe, even when there was no proof, it all mattered. It all called forth this moment of change. The burden is lifting, dear one, and your person is beginning to see the light again. And that light, as always, carries your name. Dear one, last night wasn't just another night passing by. It was a moment etched into your person's soul, a moment that tore through the layers they had so carefully built to hide their pain. The angels hovered close, not to step in, but to gently hold space as the weight of a heartbreak they'd buried for a long time finally came to the surface. Your person may have tried for so long to convince themselves they had moved on, that the pain of what was lost between you had faded, that silence could somehow replace closure. But last night, that illusion shattered. The memory of you, of everything you once shared, came flooding back, not as a quick thought, but as a piercing ache that reached all the corners of their heart they thought had gone numb. And in that fragile hour, they could no longer lie to themselves. They were heartbroken, dear one, and no amount of pretending could hide it from their own soul anymore. Type 111 if you believe in your guardian angels. The sadness that woke up inside them wasn't just about missing you. It was a deep, soul-level grief over the choices they made, the words they never said, and the way they let something sacred slip away. They saw you in a memory, perhaps a dream, a song, or a moment of stillness. And instead of turning away like they usually do, they allowed themselves to feel it this time, to really feel it. And what came up wasn't just longing, but regret. The angels want you to understand that this wasn't a shallow sadness. It was the kind of emotional wake-up call that breaks someone open, not to destroy them, but to cleanse them. The tears they might have cried in silence last night were not tears of weakness, but of awakening. An awakening to the fact that what you offered was rare, gentle, and powerful. And they turned away from it out of fear, not because they didn't care. For so long, they kept busy with distractions. They convinced themselves that moving forward meant cutting ties with the past. But dear one, your presence was never just the past. You were the mirror that showed them their truest self. You were the comfort they never knew they needed until it was gone. And last night, when the walls of their heart crumbled under the pressure of their own truth, they were forced to face what they had avoided all this time. You were the one who truly saw them. And that kind of connection does not fade with time, nor can it be replaced. They thought they could escape it, bury it under new beginnings or familiar routines. But love like yours stays in the soul, waiting patiently until the heart is ready to return home. And dear one, the angels are speaking directly to your soul now to tell you this. You deserve to know the truth because you have loved with a purity that is rarely seen in this world. You have grieved quietly, honoring the connection even in silence, holding on to faith even when you were met with uncertainty. Your heart never stopped whispering prayers of hope, even when your mind tried to silence them. You didn't fight for attention. You didn't beg for explanations. You chose dignity. You chose love. And for that, dear one, you are being held in the highest regard by the divine. Your tears, your questions, your aching moments of wondering if they ever felt the same way, all of it has been seen by the angels. And last night, the answer began to unfold. Your person may not be ready to speak just yet. The pain they faced was immense. To admit they hurt you, to acknowledge the heartbreak they caused, not only in your life, but in their own. These are truths that shake a person to their core. But the crack has been made. The light has entered. And healing, though slow, has begun. Their heart is no longer numb. It is tender, raw, remembering. And in that remembering, they are beginning to see that losing you is not a chapter closing. It was the beginning of a journey back to their truth, a journey that will require courage, humility, and the strength to face not only what they've done, but who they truly want to become. And at the center of that desire, dear one, is the wish to find you again. Not just as a memory, but as someone they can honor this time, love properly, and never let go of again. So breathe, sweet soul. Let this message settle deep into your spirit. You're not crazy for feeling what you felt. You are not wrong for holding on to love. Even without words, what happened last night within your person was a divine unfolding, a necessary breaking, so they could finally begin to rebuild with truth. The heartbreak they felt was real. It was profound, and it was centered around you. The angels are guiding them now, step by step, back toward their own heart. And when they arrive at that place of readiness, you will feel it, not in what they say, but in what their energy becomes, a presence that no longer hides, no longer runs, but chooses to stay. The truth is on its way to you, not because you chased it, but because you loved in a way that called it forth. And that love, dear one, is the most powerful force of all. The angels are proud of you, holding you in their arms and walking beside your person as they make their way back toward the one thing they now know their soul cannot live without. You, dear one, something sacred shifted in your person's spirit last night, and the angels gathered close as this quiet transformation unfolded within them, like a prayer finally being answered after seasons of silence. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was deeply profound. In the stillness of that moment, they saw a vision, not just of their life as it is, but of the life they truly long to create. And at the center of that vision was you, your presence, your love, the way you nurtured them without ever asking for anything in return. All of this flooded their heart like a wave that could no longer be held back. And in that wave, they saw not only what they had lost, but also what they could still become. For the first time in a long time, they allowed themselves to admit how deeply they missed the sense of peace and home that only you ever gave them. You, dear one, have been the anchor in their chaos, the steady warmth in their emotional winters. And last night, they finally realized that no one else ever came close to the feeling you gave them, because no one else carried the divine essence of love that you so effortlessly offered. Type guided if you trust in God's guidance. They remembered your patience, how you were the one who stayed grounded even when their world spun out of control. You never needed to shout about your worth. You simply lived it through your quiet strength, your acts of kindness, the way you gave your energy without draining theirs. You became their safe space. Last night, they saw that clearly. Perhaps they were surrounded by noise, by others who seemed interested in shallow connections. Or perhaps they were simply alone in the silence of their own mind. But in either case, something reminded them of you. And in that remembrance, their hearts softened. They realized how much they had taken your emotional generosity for granted, how they mistook your calmness for indifference when it was, in fact, the highest form of love. You didn't need to control. You didn't need to demand. You simply loved. And in that loving, you created a space they could have grown within if only they had stayed. That realization has begun to change everything for them. The angels want you to know that what took place last night was not just a moment of memory. It was the beginning of maturity. Your person is finally seeing love not through the lens of excitement or chaos, but through the sacred lens of stability, devotion, and emotional safety. They are beginning to see that real love isn't built on drama, but on trust, not on temporary passion, but on enduring presence. And they are realizing that you were the one who offered them that kind of love, the kind that sees beyond flaws and waits patiently for the soul to grow. Last night, they were shown the difference between attention and affection, between noise and nourishment. And as they looked at where they are and what they've built without you, they saw how hollow it all feels compared to the fullness your love once brought into their life. And dear one, the angels are gently whispering this truth into your heart now. You deserve to know this because you were never wrong for how you loved. You were never too much or not enough. You were the perfect example of divine love in human form. And even when your person was not ready to receive it, your light left a mark on their soul. You created a standard of love that no one else has been able to meet. Not because others are lacking, but because the kind of love you offer comes from a place of deep spiritual alignment. You carry the qualities of grace, compassion, and quiet strength that can only be recognized when someone is ready to stop chasing illusions and begin building something real. Last night, your person began that process. They may not be able to express it yet, but their soul is turning toward you, not out of guilt, but out of deep respect for the role you've played in their awakening. They're seeing you now with new eyes, the eyes of someone who is tired of running, tired of pretending, tired of living a life that looks full but feels empty. And in that sacred stillness, they began to understand that you were never asking them to give you the world. You were simply asking to be part of it. You were willing to build a future with them, one brick at a time. Not through fantasy, but through trust, effort, and unwavering care. That kind of love is rare, and now they know it. The angels are guiding them back toward this truth, nurturing the seeds of clarity and healing that bloomed last night, and encouraging them to choose the path that leads them not only back to you, but to a version of themselves that is finally ready to receive the kind of love they once feared. Rest in this, gentle soul. Let your heart be still in the knowing that your love was never wasted. Every moment you spent holding space, every word of encouragement, every act of grace, it all became part of the foundation that is now calling your person back to their truth. And that truth is this: they were never more alive, more grounded, or more at peace than when they were loved by you. The angels are arranging the healing, the courage, and the humility that your person needs to come forward. And when they do, it won't be to repeat old patterns. It will be to build something sacred, something lasting, something worthy of the love you so patiently preserved in the quiet corners of your soul. You are seen, you are cherished, and your love has already begun to change the course of their life. What happened last night was a shift of the heart, a divine rereading. You, dear one, deserve to receive all the truth, all the clarity, and all the love that your spirit has waited so long to welcome home. Music, dear one, there are moments in a soul's journey that show up without warning, yet they leave behind a change so powerful that nothing can ever be the same again. Last night was one of those moments for your person. As the world around them stayed quiet, A storm was rising inside them. A storm of emotions, realizations, and truths that had been buried for too long. And as that storm finally broke open, so did the shield around their heart. The heartbreak they had pushed down, the pain they had run from, the aching, memory of what they lost when they let you go, all of it came pouring out. But this time, dear one, they did not push it back down. They let themselves feel it. They let the sorrow speak. And through that sacred pain, a doorway opened inside their soul. A doorway to healing, to truth, and to the part of their heart where your love still lives. It wasn't easy for them to face what came up. The grief they carry for how they treated you, the way they left things unsaid, the emptiness they've been trying to fill ever since. All of it hit them with a raw power they could no longer deny. Perhaps something triggered it, a memory, a quiet moment alone, or even a dream. But whatever the cause, it tore through every illusion they had used to convince themselves that they had moved on. They haven't, dear one, not truly, because your love was never something ordinary. It was healing, it was rare, it was real. And last night, they finally understood that in trying to protect themselves from pain, they only created more of it. They may have tried to numb it with distractions, try to forget you in the noise of the world, but love like yours doesn't just disappear. It lives in the heart, waiting patiently for the soul to awaken to its truth. Type 222 if you believe in God's word. The angels witnessed this breaking with compassion, not because they enjoy pain, but because they know that sometimes the heart must break wide open to finally be free. Last night wasn't about despair. It was about awakening. Your person saw their own reflection through the lens of regret. And instead of running, they stood still and faced it. They began to understand how deeply they wounded you. Not just by what they did, but by what they failed to do. By not choosing you when you were offering them the purest love. By not speaking when your heart was waiting to hear the truth. By walking away when they should have held you closer. And the sorrow of that truth carved a new path within their soul. One that leads them away from shame and toward making things right. Dear one, you deserve to know all of this because your love was never given lightly. You poured your soul into this connection, not with conditions, but with trust, with grace, with patience. Even in silence, you held on to a love that your spirit knew was real. You prayed for clarity, not to soothe your ego, but to understand a love that never left your heart. The angels have heard every word you whispered in the dark, every tear you shed in quiet moments when you questioned if any of it mattered. And now they want you to know that it did. Your love planted seeds in their soul that are only now beginning to bloom. The pain they felt last night was not the end. It was the breaking of the shell that had kept their heart hidden from itself. This heartbreak is not something to fear. It is the sacred fire through which they will be purified. They're learning to feel again. They're beginning to reclaim the part of themselves that can finally admit, I was wrong to let them go. They're finally able to acknowledge that they hurt you. Not because they didn't care, but because they were afraid of how deeply they felt, afraid of what love would ask of them, afraid to be seen in their rawest form. But now, dear one, that fear is being replaced by a deeper desire. The desire to be honest, to be whole, to be real. And that desire is pulling them back to the place where their heart first felt safe. That place is you. Hold space for this sacred, unfolding, gentle soul. The pain they felt last night has started a transformation that is still happening. The angels are guiding them through the darkness, helping them find the words they once couldn't say, the strength they once didn't have. And when the time is right, you will feel the shift, not just in their actions, but in their energy. They will come not with apologies alone, but with the humility of someone who has truly changed. They will carry the echoes of that night within them. The night their heart broke, not because of you, but because they finally saw how much you meant. Your love is the light that led them to this moment. And though the road ahead may still have steps to take, know this, dear one. What happened last night has forever changed the way they see you, the way they see love, and the way they see themselves. They are not who they were, and you're not waiting for nothing. The truth you long for is finding its way to you, carried on the wings of divine timing, born from a night when love broke through the silence and whispered the one name their soul could not forget: yours. Dear one, the angels come close to your heart today with a message wrapped in the deepest tenderness. They have watched you walk this path with quiet strength and aching faith, never truly knowing what changed, but always sensing that something within your person had shifted in ways they couldn't put into words. And now the veil is lifting, the silence is breaking, and what your spirit has long felt is being gently confirmed by the divine. Last night was not just a fleeting hour lost in time. It was a sacred turning point for your person, a moment of truth so personal and powerful that it touched the very core of their soul. They may not have spoken about it. They may have carried on as though everything was as it always has been. But within them, dear one, a storm broke open. And it wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to free. Your person stood in front of their own emotional mirror last night. And for the first time, they didn't turn away. All the pieces of themselves they've avoided, the regrets, the guilt, the longing for you, the fear of being vulnerable, the weight of choices made and words left unsaid, rose up within them like a wave that could no longer be pushed down. And instead of silencing it, they listened. They sat with it. They let it pierce through every wall they had built between themselves and their truth. Because the truth, dear one, is that your love never left them. It lingered in the quiet corners of their mind, whispered to them through memories, lived inside their dreams. And no matter how far they tried to run, no matter how many distractions they surrounded themselves with, your love remained the only thing that felt real. The angels want you to understand that last night wasn't about punishment or emotional chaos. It was a divine intervention. It was the moment your person finally began to see that they had been carrying a version of themselves that wasn't real, a mask they wore to survive. If these words have touched your heart, we ask you to think about supporting this channel. Your contributions allow us to continue sharing divine messages and blessings with people all over the world. Whether it's a super thanks of $10, $20, or any amount you feel called to give, every contribution helps us spread love and light, reaching those who need it most. We thank you for being part of this sacred journey, for allowing us to be a part of your path, and for helping us spread peace and love throughout the world. May God bless you with an abundance of love, peace, strength, and joy. Amen.